biggest, the baddest, wackiest, funniest, filmiest show on earth.
Never fool.
Hey, welcome back to our Stupid Director Korbin. I'm Rick. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, GC Can't You can do the Patreon for the check out like Britain. Today we got a this is a little interview style thingy here, and it's called The Magic of the Maestro.
Must be about Raja, sir.
What? Why do you think that?
Because isn't that what he's called? Isn't he called the Maestro?
There's a lot of people called the Maestro. Okay?
No. Nope. I mean, Maestro is a word for conductors, which you think shouldn't exist.
Incorrect. I think they shouldn't. They serve no purpose on the day. Get it right. But it's called The Magic of the Maestro.
I almost asked Sean and David. Sean's the composer. David was the orchestrator. I almost asked them, could you help me give a better definition as to why you guys are so needed to my friend Korbin, who thinks that you guys don't need to be there on the day? Because when we were doing this, when you're singing, there are points. You got the music in front of you, especially with a table read. We got the music in front of us. We know where the song's going. We know where the chart is. We know what's written on the page. But there are moments, got to turn and look at David.
Yeah, because if we don't practice at that moment.
No, this was on the day in front of the audience.
Nope.
You have to look for the cue because the baritone part has to resolve itself before the final note, and we all have to hit the note at the same time, and the rhythm is dropped out. How are we all going to do that in sync? You got to keep your eye on the conductor. So, up yours.
Incorrect.
What are we doing?
This is a lovely compilation of interviews of
Raja,
various
sir?
artists about Raja.
Oh, they're talking about him.
Yes.
Okay.
It's mostly in English. Has a bit of Tamil, where Yuva is saying that many have asked for scores similar to his dad, and Sushrani speaks about how. What does it say?
Mahendran.
The legendary director, and how much they respect each other. Okay, so I'm guessing if there's a little that's not English, that's what they're saying.
Got it. Cool.
Downloading it, so.
Oh, it's still.
So we don't get an ad in the middle.
Lovely. That's always good. Is that baby Raja, sir? Wow.
Music right from the beginning with Ilaiyaraaja, with Rahman has.
That's not Raja, sir. That's my Rahman.
How do you make sure that you're getting the best in the sense of how do you? Is your brief ultra precise? Is that when you say love song, for instance, they're doing love songs all the time. So how do you ensure that a love song that Ilaiyaraaja gives you is going to be extra special for you?
Yeah, you never ask him for a love song.
Okay.
Don't ask him for a love song. You just try to transport him into the world of this film. You tell him the story, tell him the situation, and talk things around it. And he just takes his harmonium and tune just kind of pours out of him, So you have to be careful with your ears glued in, and if what he's making is right for you, you have to grab it very fast. You can't let the catch drop. Or if it is you want something else, you have to think of something else to tell him, to inspire him to move into another zone. So with Raja, it was like that.
With Raja, it is, I think, a kind of an internalization, which is spectacular. I think he's a kind of a person who is able to see the whole even before the tune was there, in some weird way. Yeah. I don't think he even composed, but somehow the whole was already there. Like, what is the imagery that is required from what I'm creating was something seemed to have mapped. And to his credit goes the depth and layering that he brought to film music, not just in South India, in the whole of this country. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The kind of layering that he brought to cinema music is unbelievable. And it didn't matter whether the layering came from what genre of music. And we keep talking about fusion today. Right. I think the person who really understood fusion is Raja, at a level which is quite unparalleled. So you had songs where you had electronic instruments, you had violins, you had some tabla from somewhere. Now, even sonically, to bring the three together, forget about musically, is very hard because they just don't go together. There's a problem. But somehow when you listen to the three in a Ilaiyaraaja song, they almost seem like they're from the same cultural basket as they've lived, like 300 years, this is how we've been doing something, That's that's astounding.
See, from a young age, actually, I'm a kind of an extended bathroom singer. Okay. I sing.
My skin!
In my college days and my school days, I was always called as a singer. And particularly, I was born in 1971, so 76, Raja came, and I still believe my first music which lingered in my mind is Annakiliye Unnathidade. So, I'm following from the first step of Ilaiyaraaja. Many times I had a contention with Raja sir. He would say, how can you say this audience will also see in that particular rhythm? I say, I don't want audience to have another idea, sir. I'm enforcing my idea and I'm handcuffing them that they should see my movie in my way of. The story which I'm telling is actually an objective story, but the way I tell is a very subjective thing. Even sometimes I go, maybe very really idiotically, even to Ilaiyaraaja, I'll go and tell, sir, I need a piano in this place because I need a smaller notes, I need a short notes, and I need a percussion on this time, I need cello, I need sax. So I will tell. He will smilingly will listen to me, and he understands me that I'm a very specific kind of filmmaker, and he gives me what I expect actually. Okay. This always happens.
Another crucial stage of post-production is the re-recording or the background music. Now you're at this point, again, like everywhere else, are you present in each and every scene? Like are you, like for Ilaiyaraaja, for instance, would develop these themes for characters. You'd be present when the themes are present.
In the sense, Ilaiyaraaja was just, you blink your eye, it's gone. So he's just unbelievable. When he's watching the reel, you have to be next to him. You have to be by his ears. And if you want to tell him something, if you want to say something, that is the only chance you have, because he just makes small, small two.
And then he knows what it is.
Word notes, that's all he does. And then he scores for the whole reel in a matter of 10 minutes. And you don't know what it is till.
Yeah, so you better get your idea in before he's solidified what he's done.
Everyone
I'm not changing
strings themselves together and practices separately. And then he conducts it. Even when he conducts it, you still don't know which is coming where. And then he puts a film on, the whole 1,000 feet, 10 minutes on, and then he conducts it from inside. It's just an amazing experience. The man is so precise, knows when to start, when to finish, when to get silence, when to get. So very rarely will you have issues, but it's best for you to be with him, next to him, as he is watching it, to tell whatever you're saying. You don't know whether it is sinking in fully, because he's watching around, he's doing all that, and still he will take any inputs that you give him, and convert it. And I've never had a problem really ever with what the score that he's done.
யாராவது வந்து உங்க அப்பாவோட ஒரு பாட்டு கொண்டு வந்து இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பாட்டு வேணும்னு கேட்டிருக்காங்களா?
நிறைய பேர்.
Give me an example.
Obviously, I think வைராஜாவை பண்ணும்போது ஐஸ்வர்யா தனுஷ் அவங்க வந்து ராஜா இந்த பாட்டை ரீமிக்ஸ் பண்ணலாம்னு சொன்னாங்க.
Okay.
நான் சொன்னேன் இது மேல கை வைக்கவே முடியாது, தயவு செஞ்சு விட்டுருங்க அப்படின்னு.
Sorry.
Yeah, because this one.
I can't understand this one, so.
Yeah, okay.
What I really learned to love about his music was the specificity of the melodies.
Rick loves that word.
Where
Specificity?
of the vocal parts. The vocal parts, yeah. Where there is, I won't say there's no room for reinterpreting, but like if I sing Karne Kalemane, for example, it sounds horrible if I try to do something to it that is not in the original version. But it sounds gorgeous if you sing it just as composed. And I think that shows such a strength in the composition. Not only the composition, but the vision of how exactly it should be delivered. That was actually quite, it opened up my mind a lot, because up until that point, I come from my Carnatic background, and I'm always really into like the improvisation, singing Narava Swara Malapane, but actually kind of rediscovering Raja Sir's music also forced me to reapproach or relook at the way I approach singing Carnatic compositions even, or any composition, and just sticking to melody and not trying to do all these flourishes and embellishments to everything, and just the beauty and just singing a song the way it's supposed to be sung.
I think இளையராஜா வந்து ஃபிலிம் இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில் யார் மேலேயாவது ஏர்லி ஸ்டேஜஸில் ரொம்ப மரியாதை மதிப்பு ஒரு நட்பு ஒரு மதிப்பு வச்சுருந்தாருனா if he really respected somebody's talent அப்படின்னா மகேந்திரன் தான். Because when I met Raja sir and Mahindran together, I met Raja sir earlier. Amar, Raja sir and Bhaskar எல்லாம் வந்து கமலுக்கு ரொம்ப ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸு. And every second Sunday, Kamal used to sing for Ilaiyaraaja. Pavalar Brothers' Music Academy, in Mylapore Finance, to get crowd together. So, Raja sir வந்து ரொம்ப, he's part of our family and all that. But அவங்க ரெண்டு பேரும் சேர்ந்து நான் பார்த்தப்போ எப்பன்னா ரெண்டு பேரும் they wanted to make a movie called Marudan. இந்த அப்பூர் சன்சாரில் ஒரு ஸ்டோரி மாதிரி இருக்கும். It was a dream project. அப்போ தான் நெஞ்சத்துக்குள்ள ரிலீஸ் ஆயிருந்தது. I went back to the Film Institute. ரெண்டு பேரும் சேர்ந்து கன்வின்ஸ் பண்ண ட்ரை பண்ணுவாங்க பண்ணு பட் ஐ வாஸ் வெரி ஷுவர்.
தட் இஸ் மஹேந்திரன் அண்ட்
இளையராஜா சார். இளையராஜா வந்து தட்டு எடுத்துட்டு வருவார், வந்துட்டு ஒரு ஸ்வீட் சாப்பிட்டுட்டு சொல்லு மருதாணி பண்ணிடலாமா அப்படிம்பாரு. அண்ட் ஐ டோன்ட் நோ இஃப் யூ நோ, இன் த டிஃபிகல்ட் டைம்ஸ் ஆஃப் மஹேந்திரன் சார்ஸ் லைஃப்ஸ், இட் இஸ் இளையராஜாஸ் வைஃப் ஜீவா ஹூ சப்போர்ட்டட் தட். பிகாஸ் மஹேந்திரன் வைஃப் ஜாஸ்மின் அண்ட் ஜீவா ஆர் வெரி குட் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ். அதனால இதெல்லாம் இந்த விஷயம்லாம் நிறைய பேருக்கு தெரியாது ராஜா சாரை பற்றி. அவரோட பாட்டுலேயே இருப்பார், மியூசிக்லேயே இருப்பாருங்க. பட் his family was taking care of other people who had some difficulties also. ஸோ அந்த அளவுக்கு they were very close. And of course I think ராஜா சாருக்கு ஒரு ஃப்ரீக்கியாக ஒரு மாடர்னிசம் இருக்குது அவர்கிட்ட. ஈவன் தோ ஒரு ஃபோக் தான் இருந்தாலும் ஒரு ஃப்ரீக்கியாக ஒரு மாடர்ன் ஐடியாஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கும். அதை ரியலைஸ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு மகேந்திரன் சார் ஒரு பெரிய டூலாக இருந்தார். அண்ட் பருவமே சாங் எல்லாம் வந்து வேறு எந்த டைரக்டர்ட்டையும் இட் இஸ் நாட் பாசிபிள்.
ஆக்சுவலி அந்த படத்தில் த உறவெனும் புதிய வானல் இஸ், I think that's one of the first great Western classical masterpieces of Ilaiyaraaja. I mean,
and do you remember the re-recording music of Nejithikilade? Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because I think Ilaiyaraaja sir just loved the film.
Whose decision was it to incorporate this train whistle into a musical motif? Is that yours or does that come from?
Totally Ilaiyaraaja. He uses these elements into music, and like he would start, for Agni Natchatram, the song will start with birds and chirping and be a part of it, and then it moves into the song. Similarly here, a whistle which is there. And so when the film was made, and we had done the background, we had done all the sound effects and taken it to him, and we had the whistle which we had put in the in the FX track. He turned and smiled at me. I didn't know what it meant. He was just pleased that the sound effect that we have put was in the same shruti as the songs.
Heck
song.
yeah. That's
so
very
glad
satisfying.
That the pitch were not different. So
You repeatedly said how much Ilaiyaraaja's music means to you. So I want to ask you, supposing you go back to the 1980s and you were an actor then, which album of Ilaiyaraaja would you choose? I mean, which film of his would you choose where you could lip sync the songs? I mean, it's really tough, but can you name one? I mean, your favorite?
Plenty. I mean, there's so much. It's very difficult to
It's more
pick
than
one.
that.
So
Yeah.
much.
Name one. I mean, just anything. Like a...
Say முதல் மரியாதை, அபூர்வ சகோதரர்கள். There's so many. I can go on. There's so much.
Okay.
This is just out of the top of my head because I was listening to those songs today.
Okay.
And I think definitely someone like an Ilaiyaraaja sir, he has created I think he's the best at fusion music in the world for me. Right? So what he has fused together.
Comment on that.
Is folk music and Western classical music. That's one of the most amazing fusions that you can hear, and it's all relatable.
Yeah.
But I think when he created it initially, definitely it would have sounded alien. Now we all celebrate it, and I take inspiration from it. I could do a bad job, but my inspiration is that they have created something, a new world out of their heads, and I wish to create it from what I can learn.
I think what sets Raja sir apart is the intention. Everything is so highly intentional and very deliberate. You can almost tell that nothing was just an accident where he's like, oh yeah, let's just do that. Let's try something, and if it works, then let's keep it. No, it was like I'm sure that he thought that this needs to resolve a different way the second time to give the song a momentum at that point. And you wouldn't necessarily think about it unless you're like doing this, sitting down, critically breaking down and analyzing a song. But those decisions go such a long way. And I think that's a lot of the magic in his music is those kind of simple moments.
Okay, just to compare your father's style and your style, I'll just list two songs. One composed by your father and sung by you, and one composed by you and sung by your father. எனக்கு நீங்க கம்போஸ் பண்ணி உங்க அப்பா பாடின பாட்டுல ரொம்ப பிடிச்ச பாட்டு மச்சான் மச்சான்.
Okay.
இது சிலம்பாட்டம். And the reverse வந்து சாய்ந்து சாய்ந்து. So இந்த ரெண்டு ப்ராசஸும் how did it happen? Like in the sense of, did you just say, appa, I need to, like, I have this tune ready, நீங்க just வந்து பாட்டு பாடுங்க அந்த மாதிரி?
எனக்கு ஒரு பாட்டு பாடணும்னா ஓகே வந்துடுறேன் அப்படின்வாங்க. ஸோ வந்து லிரிக் கேட்டுட்டு லிரிக்கில் தான் மெயினாக ஏதாவது சொல்லுவாங்க. டேட் டசன்ட் லைக் தட் அந்த.
Whose son is he? Talked about.
Edit. Raja used to bring the soul of that scene, you know, with the score that he adds. It's always a fear to how much of silence you leave, how much you don't leave. You fill the film with music, it kills it. When Raja gives a gap, you know, uses silence, the music gets really, you know, more effective when there is these pauses, when there's breathing space. So you should have the courage, you should trust the music director, and you should have a judgment of how much you want.
Tendril Vandu Teendumbodu is like an all-time favorite, right on top of the list. I probably would listen to it 3-4 times a week. It's on top of my playlist. It's just the way the song is constructed musically. There's so much of a Western classical influence. I mean, you can't say influence because I think he is that himself, you know. So beautifully etched. It worked with the film, and then leave the film now, and it's just a song that you can actually make the youngsters listen to. And I really wish, you know, we could do a new age version of the same song with newer voices and stuff like that. Kodekala Katre is another song which, you know, like whenever we sit and jam and stuff, or on a show, if like you're asking me, this is the first song that I would probably sing or even talk about. Again, 70s, early 80s, so production is a little of that time kind of a thing, but there's still so much of soul in that song, the melody, the way it's constructed. And these are all guitar-based songs, right? So it really strikes a chord. Likewise,
Pun intended.
From the picturization to the mood that's created, and the song itself in Jesudas sir's voice, it's an all-time favorite of mine. For me, Katre Konjam is, from my own film, it's a study of Raja sir, because I know the way I sat with him, and it's a small song actually in the film, only a Pallavi, where I'd said there's a journey that he's taking to meet this girl whom he hasn't met for 4-5 years. And he's this angst of what will happen. I'm going towards her. Will she treat me nicely? Will she talk to me and stuff? So he said, "Oru Pallavi Panla," and we made that song. We recorded Karthik's voice in Bombay after composing in Chennai on his harmonium. While he was recording the song, Muthukumar was obviously there. I fell in love with the song so much, and I always thought it was a brilliant tune. I stopped the session and I asked him, "So can we compose a charanam?" He said, "Why?" He said, "No sir, it's so beautiful, I want a charanam." He said, "But you don't have the space. Even if it's not there in the film, it's okay. I want charanam for the album." So we sat and worked a charanam, and that charanam came up in 15 seconds. An entire charanam. He said, "Come." Harmonium was out, and he composed the charanam in front of me. It was unbelievable. And then we took it to London, and the way the orchestra worked for that song and everything, I think it's a beautiful song. And Karthik sang it so beautifully and everything. If you'd ask me to pick a fifth song, I'd probably pick from a whole lot of songs, Uruvugal Thodarkadai. For the situation, I can still watch that, even though the actors are not, I mean, Sripriya, of course, is mind-blowing. But Sivachandran is on the piano, and it's not done well and all that stuff. And he's actually the wrong guy. He's actually cheating her in the film, but still he gets a great song, you know, which bothers me, but it's such a mind-blowing song. It's so soothing.
Is he talking about the piano playing? That bothered him?
Can I sing a little bit?
Man after Rick's song.
I'm going to try and do it justice.
Oh, one of my favorite voices in all of Indian cinema. I love Sitram's voice. Stephen Hawking. Stephen King.
அந்திப்பகலுனை நான் பார்க்கிறேன் ஆண்டவனை இதைதான் கேட்கிறேன் ராரிராரோ ஓராரிரோ ராரிராரோ ஓராரிரோ கண்ணே கலைமானே கன்னிமயிலென கண்டேன் உனை நானே.
So this Raja guy, pretty good at music, huh?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think so. Might have a career ahead of him.
Might.
Maybe so.
Now, was he talking about the piano?
I don't know.
I feel like he was. I feel like he was. He said something. He was like, the piano. He didn't do. It wasn't doing it well, and it bothered me.
Right.
But the song is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think is what he said. It sounded like it, right?
It sounded like it. You're looking at the books.
I'm trying to read what books he has. But that would have been somebody after your own heart.
Absolutely.
I would love to be able to watch Raja Sir compose.
Oh, yeah.
Next time we're with A.R. Rahman, we would ask him to compose an intro on the spot.
Yeah, it's not a surprise what Mani Ratnam was saying, where he's got to be sitting right beside him when he's doing his work. Otherwise, he'll get an idea and lock it, and it's in concrete, and then there's nothing to add. So if I want to add something in there that I think is important to the storytelling, I got to be right there and go, yeah, well, let's do that. Otherwise, it's going to be, he's done.
Do you think if the song ends up coming, can you tell Raja Sir anything? Be like, can we add a hit? And he's like, no.
I think it depends on the relationship. Mani Ratnam could do that. A new director, probably not.
Can we add? No, you just say.
Well, I think his primary response would be,
would you ever need to? It's right.
Yeah, that's the first one. Would you ever need to? And second of all, I think he'd probably be open to it if it worked. My experience with composers, not that I've worked with anybody on the level of a Raja Sir, but they're the ones I've worked with, orchestrators and composers, are very collaborative. Even though it's their baby, they know that the end result is going to be the product of the collaboration of everybody that's involved. And so they're usually open to anything you have to say. But they're very firm on what they've decided on. So if they don't agree with it, they're going to say no, and they're going to move on, which is great. And I imagine more than likely, if you hear what he's done, it's going to be better than what you were thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
So unless it's something really specific that's been part of your vision of the script, like if Mani Ratnam has an idea, he says, okay, I have to have at this point, I need a flute here. It's got to be a flute for whatever reason. You just need to let him know that at the outset. Otherwise, he might not choose the voicing for a flute.
Or does the composers basically have like final say?
I think it depends on the composer.
Yeah.
Ultimately, no. It's the director's the king.
But the directors don't know anything about music.
True, but the directors are the king. Case in point. I mean, the most beautiful relationship between a director and a composer is John Williams and Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
And Spielberg's not a musician, but he understands music as the component for the storytelling.
What he was saying is true. What Mani was saying. He's like, if you put too much, it's going to ruin the film.
Hell yeah. That's why when we talk about something being overscored, it is. You need to let it breathe.
Also, I loved what My Skin said, which is he's apparently a great filmmaker. We haven't explored him yet. He's a Tamil director. Apparently, he's really good. He's known for making really artistic style films. And his name is not My Skin. It's pronounced a different way, but it just looks like
it reads that way for
My Skin. I've been educated by patrons.
Yeah.
But he said, I love what he said. He was like, the story I'm telling is very objective.
Right.
I'm telling the story.
An objective story.
I'm telling the story, and this is what I'm saying. But when I make a film, then it becomes subjective.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously everybody kind of knows that, but
Yeah.
putting it in those simple terms is, I like it.
Yeah.
And you can make a film that you don't have a specific thing that you're saying.
Sure.
Although I think most of the times you do, whether you express that or not, like,
Right.
Whether you like choose to tell people what your exact message was.
Absolutely. That's very true, especially in short films. I've been watching a buttload of short films with the SAG-AFTRA Foundation thing. So I watched 20 and now I'm watching 30 of them. And I put that in one of the comments of one of the films I was watching because the film, it's a drama. It's really well done. Everything, writing, acting, really well done. But self-harm is part of the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
And when it ended, the messaging wasn't really clear to me. And I thought, I don't know, was I supposed to take away from this that this was actually a good thing that the character did? That that's an option that we need to be accepting of? Or at the very least, are you trying to get us to understand what causes someone to do this? And so I commented on it and said, my personal take on this subject matter is that it's negative, but I don't want to impose that on what the director's trying to say. And I don't even want to say it was wrong for the director to not be clear in the way I would view it. It could have just been lost on me. And sometimes that does happen. That's why I'll sometimes revisit a film I didn't like, unless it's clearly trash, because maybe the director's whole point, it's not my style. My style of movies is it's storytelling. We're going to have an arc, we're going to have a climax and a resolution. But there are some movies that are made that are just, the director has something they want to say and they really don't care if you get it.
I like it.
Yeah. And that I have no objection to that. I may not like that myself, but might be someone else might love that.
I like it. I had an idea for a film just yesterday. It's not a fleshed out idea at all. It was just something that came to my mind because I was talking to Patreon about a movie idea, and I wanted to, because this is not the idea, but the I was talking about like India should do a way kind of like an Inglourious Bastards where they change history.
Yeah.
And like instead of killing Hitler, you kill Churchill, and you can call it Imperial Bastards.
That's a great idea.
One, I love the name of Imperial Bastards. It's a great one. But then I thought I was like, there's a.
That's a great idea.
The movie idea I thought of, and I haven't fleshed out in the slightest, but somehow Indians capture like a evil general's newborn baby, and they raise him as this British killing machine, like a Bronson,
right?
And they just raise him as this weapon against
the British.
And like they cut out his tongue, so he's like, for some reason in my head he's mute. And so,
okay.
Maybe that could be the Imperial Bastard.
That's
good.
That's good.
Call him the Imperial.
Call him the Imperial Bastard.
That's not bad. Call upon Anurag. I'll need to play him.
He might direct again.
I'll need to play him.
Yeah.
But I'll have to bulk up.
Corbin will do it.
Oh, if it's my idea, I'm absolutely doing it. Bullshit if I'm ever letting somebody else do it. I love the name Imperial Bastard.
I do too. So. Imperial Bastard.
Either Imperial Bastard for that idea or Imperial Bastards. I like that.
Or you make it Imperial Bastard and then you put the S in parentheses.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be both.
Or somebody else had this idea for an Indian film name about the British in some way. Because my original question was, I'm trying to make... Is there a story where a British officer or somebody was in a relationship with a village girl Indian
Has to be.
some way?
Has to be.
I said whether love story, toxic, or otherwise.
Has to be.
Because I want to write a story about telling the brutalization of India through the lens of what the audience might think is a love story, whether it is in fact or not. I'm not trying to write a love story between a British person and an Indian to kind of like coat over the brutalness. The main idea was the brutalness, but told to a more, at least in like, I'm thinking like it's not actually a love story. He's like using them in some way, but you think it's a love story between these two.
I like the idea of it being a love story.
No.
He's a British officer who recognizes how bad the British are and they're colonizing, and he doesn't.
Yeah, but it wouldn't end the same way with yours.
No,
as
it
with
wouldn't.
Mine.
Yeah, that's very Corbin and very
In my
Rick.
mind,
Our
the way-
versions are
like,
very
let's
us.
say there was a movie where that happened.
Yeah.
One, I think it would do a disservice to the actual things that happened to just create a love story.
It would need to
And
be
that-
it'd be cool if you could find a true story about
Yeah,
that.
but like my wife is actually 1% Bengali and northeastern Indian, and she likes to think it's a love story. But I'm like,
I'm with your wife.
I said, I don't know. But the way I would end that is like there's a whole thing where they fall in love and everything, but then he has an ultimatum where they have to, like, they're massacring them, but then he ends up shooting them because they find out that they're in love, and so he makes him shoot, and he has a decision to make, but he still does it because he's an evil Brit, and it ends in a very sad way.
That's a Corbin film for you. That is a Corbin film.
It would not end happy. I promise you.
I don't mind it ending unhappy as long as the reason it's happening is he realizes how bad the British were and he dies for the Indian cause.
No.
But on another level, when are we getting an epic historical film about the famine in Bengal?
Or the partition, which go hand in hand.
When are we making that epic?
It would be an Oscar immediately.
We need that story to be told on a level and a budget that is worthy of that thing.
I really like the idea of calling that movie Imperial Bastard.
I like that too.
It's like this brutal movie.
India would know about that story. I'm talking about, I would love to see an India-U.S. production that takes that story and makes it aware to the Western mind. Or you get an Indian production that is so good, it becomes the submission for the international Oscar.
Because they don't want to offend the Brits. Remember when they did that? They said that's why they didn't submit Sardar Udam, because they didn't want to offend the British.
Yeah, I know, and that was a mistake. Learn from your mistakes.
They won't. If anybody wants to help me write Imperial Bastard,
that's
hit me up.
And that's a film. That kind of film, a true story about the Bengal famine and what really took place and how the British were responsible for that. That is the kind of film that the Academy would look at and say, that's an important story for people to never forget. And many of them don't even know it to forget it yet. They don't teach it in school. Here.
Look at this guy. He's an 8-head.
You know who that is?
Who's that?
Aw.
Who is that? Okay, just tell me who it is.
It's Godfather Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
You broke my heart. Aw.
What's his name?
The actor? John Cassavetes, I think.
Oh.
Is that his name?
Is he Jewish?
No, he's
Don't
Italian.
tell me.
He's Italian. John.
He's an
I don't think
Italian Jew.
Is that John Cassavetes? I forgot it. Can't believe I'm forgetting his name.
Anyways.
Hold on. While you do that, I want to make sure I know his
Fun
get his
video.
name right.
Always love hearing about. I need to text AR.
Godfather 2 cast.
Sorry, I'm just going to text AR Rahman real quick.
Oh, I was close. John Cazale. John Cazale. Yeah. You broke my heart, Fredo. If you haven't seen The Godfather Part 1 and 2, please do. It's one film. Just watch them back to back because it's
And
one
Godfather
film.
3.
Nope.
I can't wait for Godfather 4.
Nope. You don't need to see any more
They should
Godfathers
call
after
it
1
The
and 2.
Godfather 4, the subsequent movie.
Yeah, you don't. You don't.
But make it a comedy.
You don't need.
Make it a comedy.
It's just 1 and 2.
Seth Rogen. Actually, I'm really looking forward to the studio.
Seth Rogen.
Have you seen the trailer for the studio?
I haven't. I've heard about it.
Just look up the trailer. It looks fantastic. And also, the early reviews
Are great. That's what I've heard.
It's Apple TV.
Yeah, I've heard it's
Apple TV is what HBO used to be.
Variety, I think, said it's so funny it hurts. Did he reply? That would have been fast.
He's like, yeah, man.
Damn.
I was like, do you want to make Imperial Bastard with me?
He's already signing A.R. Rahman up to do the score. Or did you texted Anurag?
No, I haven't texted on you.
Okay.
I'm not going to text him just a random idea.
Why not?
No.
He's not directing anything right now. He's an actor.
Anyways,
All he's doing is acting right now.
That
He
was
probably
great.
wants to direct something great.
if there's other videos like this we can react to, please let us know down below.
The biggest, the baddest, wackiest, funniest, filmiest show on earth.
Never